In 6 short days, Pakistan goes to the polls, an election that sees the Sharif's PMLN appearing like a spent force and the Bhutto's PPP seeming a shadow of its former self. Conditions that seem near perfect for one man. Waiting in the wings, but if one recent survey is to be believed, his time in the sun isn't too long off now.
नवाज शरीफ का करप्शन खत्म कर सकता है और आसिफ जरदारी का तो आपको पता ही है.
Declaring himself as the messiah of the Pakistan people, Imran Khan is projecting the image of an honest, clean politician. The PTI chief seems to be capitalizing on the recent conviction of big PMLN leaders and the corruption taint on former President Asif Ali Zardari. And this recent survey is going to make Imran Khan happier. A research conducted by AKD Securities Limited gives a snapshot of the results, giving an insight into who could form the next government in the country. The survey predicts Pakistan Tehreek-e-Insaf's major lead over all other parties. With 99 seats in the National Assembly, the Imran Khan-led party could emerge as the single largest party. The study predicts that Pakistan Muslim League Nawaz would win 72 seats as opposed to 142 in the last elections. Bilawal Bhutto-led Pakistan People's Party would end up with 35 seats and in the third position. Among other key parties in the fray, the Muttahida Qawmi movement is projected to bag 13 seats, the conservative Muttahida Majlis-e-Amal 11 seats, and the Grand Democratic Alliance 8 seats. The survey predicts a lead for Imran Khan, but there is little to rejoice just yet. In the 272-member strong assembly, a party would need 137 seats to form the government. So even if PTI does emerge as the single largest party, it would need 38 more seats for Imran Khan to be the Prime Minister. In the case of a hung assembly, the agency lists out possible scenarios. Number 1. PTI leads the coalition with the support from nationalist parties along with independents. Number 2. Imran Khan joins hands with Pakistan People's Party to lead the coalition with support from provincial and ethnic parties and independents. And number 3. PMLN and PPP come together to form the government. The two parties could forge a bond under a common persecution theme. If this recent report is anything to go by, the incumbent PMLN will have to spend the next 5 years on the opposition benches. Fragmentation within the senior ranks and the recent judicial setback to the party leadership could severely impact the PMLN's political fortunes. If this survey proves correct, the stock of Islamists may as well go up as Imran Khan scrambles to shore up the numbers and propel himself to the seat of power. Bureau Report, WION.
And on the show with us from London to talk about the surveys, the results and everything in between is journalist and author Reham Khan. Reham, good evening. Thanks for joining us on WION. So it's another day, another survey, but this one is also backing Imran Khan. We're seeing, let's say, a steady rise in the PTI stock, at least when it comes to these surveys. But I guess the question I want to ask you is, how reliable do you think these polls really are?
Thank you. Well, I mean, everything and alien forces also seem to be backing Imran, so I'm not surprised that the polls are also tilted in his favor. I'm not a huge fan of polls, and I remember back in England when we were initially learning about journalism and training to be journalists, I was taught not only to read between the lines, but also read between the numbers. So, you know, the polls are and surveys are meant to indicate certain things, and so we need to look at how many people and which constituency or which area these, you know, they're very good advertising ploys as far as I'm concerned. Polls just want to give the impression that you want to get out of it. So I'm not personally a fan of these surveys, and I think they're always used to customer confidence or sway customer confidence, even when we talk about products. Imran, of course, is a product, and is a product, the forces who he's a product of will obviously have invested a lot of money, time and energy, and you don't build up a product and you don't build up a brand to see it fail. And they are working, and I would use the word hell-bent to get him into office. The only problem that appears to be is that I've said this many times, that there's only one horse in this race. It's not, of course, a level playing field, but the horse seems very, there's certain handicaps with this horse, and the problem is that you can put up everything together for him. You can arrange a concert, you can put up flags, you can use government machinery to make sure that nobody else is contesting or everybody's threatened. For example, I'll give you the example of my book. Printers in Pakistan are so, independent printers and publishers are so intimidated that they think that they'll be picked up and there'll be disappearances, that nobody is willing to publish this book in Pakistan. They want to read it, but they don't want to be losing their business, and they don't want to be in any way harmed. Of course, reporters also. I was speaking to a very senior correspondent who's been many times to Pakistan, and she's an English journalist, and she said to me yesterday that they've not denied the visa, but they're not giving me the visa. Right. So I think I'll get the visa as soon as the elections are over. So what I mean to say is that this horse in the race is actually not doing anything to benefit from all the support system that he's getting. And one of the biggest examples is the poor turnout just yesterday of his information secretary's home constituency in Jhelum. And actually all three jalsas that happened yesterday, we had a very poor turnout. But not only was it a poor turnout, it was very difficult to cover up the poor turnout. And this is in central Punjab. So central Punjab seems to be still very much with the PMLN. And actually Imran went on stage and he blurted out that it was a poor turnout. At one jalsa he was pretty annoyed by, very cheesed off by the poor turnout. Even on the stage, you could see that this has never happened, but there were about 12 odd chairs that were empty. And that also denotes some tough issues within PTI. So there are three issues with the PTI. A, there's a very disorganized party. If you are to call it a party, they have disorganization. And they have to pay on big strap for cash. And it's because, of course, I think the right-hand man, Jahangir Tareen, doesn't seem to be very keen on investing money. Right. There are other people as well who think that they will be either disqualified after the election, so there doesn't seem to be that interest. But the most important thing here is the fact that Pakistan Tehreek-e-Insaf, I always felt, do not know how to do ground politics. So the things that you need on polling day, for example, polling agents, how to run a polling station, how to facilitate voters, the things that you have to bring out on polling day, I think that is going to be disappointing. So yes, the system is favouring Imran, but Imran is not doing anything and his party is not doing anything to benefit from enabling systems. Okay.
Well, let's just assume that the results of these surveys are accurate. You, of course, have raised your concerns, and I think those are valid points that you bring up. But let's say the survey is impartial. It does still look like Imran Khan will need allies. I mean, in addition to the issues you pointed out with the PTI, the magic number is not going to be met even if Imran Khan's party walks away with a relative victory. So, who stands to gain in such a scenario when we're talking about a coalition government?
I think it's quite obvious that in the center, at least, the kingmaker is still Zardari. It is still Pakistan People's Party, because it's, as I said yesterday as well, there is those 40 plus seats that they hang on to that will give power in the center. And actually, Imran, as I know him personally, isn't really bothered about anything else. He just wants to become prime minister. So I think that the compromise that they will have to make, what it's looking like today, is, as I said just earlier on, that Punjab still seems to be central Punjab. The central Punjab still seems to be with the PMLN. There seems to be no fragmentation there. South Punjab, of course, with the South South Punjab, Maharashtra, that seem to be the beneficiary will be Imran's party and Imran, but that will not be enough. So Punjab, I think, going with the results today, or the analysis today, it seems that Punjab will be drained by PMLN, and it would be wise for them to retain that, and for both sides, both brothers, to stay very united and strong, because Punjab is going to ensure future prospects and future progress and future stability for the PMLN. But the centre is looking likely to go towards some sort of coalition, and PTI might end up in cabinet, but it will have to be only with the support of the Pakistan People's Party. And Zardari's trend in politics seems to suggest, and I think Bilawal also seems to be following in his father's footsteps, where they have a very long-term policy. They're here for the long innings. They're not here for a quick 2020. So I think they're looking at the long run here, and it is looking very likely that people.
Reham, allow me to come in. We seem to be losing our connection with you. Let's try and reconnect and get a better connection on board before we continue the conversation with Reham Khan. In the meantime, there is that saying, of course, you are innocent until proven guilty. Any allegation has to be proven beyond reasonable doubt for a guilty verdict to be pronounced. But is there any court in Pakistan that can prosecute its powerful and rogue army? Arguably, no. But then there's perception, there's history, and that is what the Pakistani army can't wish away. Because in the public eyes, proof does not prevail over perception, and they vote, the public votes. In Pakistan, they will vote on July 25th. So it doesn't come as a surprise that Pakistan's army is repeatedly trying to fight the battle of perception, a battle it seems to be losing. Now, yet again, a representative of the Pakistani army has said that the army has no direct role to play in the elections. The army officer further said that the military is only providing support to civilian departments. He was speaking before a standing committee in the Senate, the upper house of Pakistan's legislature. Remember, just 10 days ago, the Pakistani army had issued a similar statement. That one too was unprompted.
अफवाज पाकिस्तान का किरदार इन इलेक्शंस में इलेक्शन कमीशन ऑफ पाकिस्तान की मावनत करना है. हमने उनको सपोर्ट देनी है उन तमाम टास्क में जो उन्होंने हमसे मांगे हैं. कंडक्ट में अफवाज पाकिस्तान का ये काम इलेक्शन कमीशन ऑफ पाकिस्तान का है, और उनके दिए गए मैंडेट के मुताबिक हम उनकी सपोर्ट करेंगे. तो दिस हैज टू बी क्लियर कि वी आर इन सपोर्ट रोल.
Once bitten, twice shy, jailed former Prime Minister Nawaz Sharif has accused the army of influencing the elections too. So don't be surprised, even Sharif's opponent, Bilawal Bhutto, has repeatedly said that Pakistan's military is blocking his efforts while banned organizations are being given a free hand. And now in an interview, the CEO of the influential Dawn Media Group has said, and I quote, there appears to be an attempt to favor second-level string leaders and a patch-up coalition which would rule with direction from the deep state, end quote. Meanwhile, Imran Khan is livid. He is accusing the Pakistani media house of being biased. The army says that it is not interfering. But Imran Khan doesn't believe the army is interfering. Yet, Nawaz Sharif, Bilawal Bhutto and a top media house are fearful that these elections will be rigged. History, they say, repeats itself, and the dark history of Pakistan's democracy is haunting its future. Right, let me go back to my guest this evening, Reham Khan, who continues to be with us from London. Reham, let's talk a bit about the army. It's been trying to dump that perception as a major player, or influencer at least, in these elections. It's repeatedly been saying that these are going to be free and fair elections, and it's only a support role that the military is playing. But are Pakistanis, and yourself for instance, someone who's living in London, do you believe this argument? Do you buy what the military has been peddling?
I think that it's not only us. One of the things which has happened recently is, as journalists and media personalities, we've always been very careful to not mention, and as with the Hamid Haroon interview as well, I was a bit disappointed because I think he was very careful, and I can understand he has a lot of people who depend on him for jobs, and he didn't want to perhaps be a little bit too to risk it, maybe. But one of the things that has happened recently is that the self-censorship that we had, talking about the army, the establishment, the ISI, that actually has been taken away. And who has taken this away? The establishment, the army, and the ISI have taken it away. No one else, because they have been so blatantly interfering with everything that it's actually taken that little bit of reserve from everyone away. And of course, the fact that the former Prime Minister Nawaz Sharif has mentioned by name some army officers, senior army officers like DGC Fairs, and also PPP representatives have actually gone on record and said these things. Has made it talking about it. So it's a very good thing to be talking about it. But I'm not the only one who's talking about it. Twitteratis and famous personalities, media personalities are not the only ones. There has been an unofficial sort of survey conducted by someone close to the armed forces, and the armed forces are looking very nervous. A little bird tells me that they think that there is, for the first time in Punjab, a growing resentment towards the army, and this has been unheard of. And they're looking at 50% of Pakistanis now really getting quite annoyed by this perception that the army or the establishment is involved in it. And of course, the army is not very happy with this perception, so they would not want it. It's not in their interest for this perception to grow from 50% to 65%. To play devil's advocate, I think for everyone in Pakistan, be it Imran, be it Nawaz Sharif and his family, and be it the establishment or the military, I think it's a survival game. I think everyone is feeling rather insecure about whether they will survive this and how will they survive, in which shape and form will they survive. So of course we are not in technically a war zone, so the military is used to a certain degree of prestige and honor and indeed, being the boss. And they're losing it. I think they're feeling insecure that this is slipping away from them. And so it's a survival game for them as well. They need to, my tuppence on this would be that they need to reinvent themselves where they feel secure enough, because you don't have to be, an army or the armed forces in a country doesn't always have to be on the border, doesn't really always have to be in armed conflict to stay secure within their position. So they have to find a niche for themselves other than politics or political interfering.
But this loss of popularity that you're referring to, that especially in the state of Punjab, can I ask you also, though, is this a largely urban phenomenon, Reham? That do you feel that it is the youth, perhaps, in the big urban centres that are losing, let's say, patience with the military and the sort of role it plays in mainstream politics, or do you think that this is actually spreading further than just urban centres?
On the contrary, completely. It's not the youth, and it's not, there are obviously sensible youth around also, but it's not really the urban elite or pseudo-elite or the intellectuals, so-called intellectuals. It's actually a growing perception within the awam. It's actually something which rural Punjab is looking at, and they see this as persecution. Whether it's true or not is debatable, but the awam across Pakistan, but for the first time in central Punjab particularly, and across our towns and cities, but more so in rural areas, know that this is a persecution. The narrative that Nawaz Sharif has put out there has worked. Mujhe kyun nikala, that the kyun nikala narrative has actually struck a chord, and people are very happy about it. Let's face it, you and I, people who live in urban centers and who have cars and who have, who appreciate the environment, who feel that their scenic landscape or their walks are ruined because of things like the metro and the Orange Line. But the awam, people who are jobless, do see this as something that benefits them. They like the fact that the Sharifs build roads for them. They like the fact that there are buses and public transport. They like the fact that women can now freely go out and not be... they also like the women on wheels thing. So one of the things which has happened in the last week is very unfortunate, because a man who was behind all of these projects, particularly the Women Protection Bill, which I feel very strongly about. He has been removed, and he was a volunteer. He wasn't a paid member. He wasn't a government member. He was certainly not political. And he's been removed by the caretaker chief minister. And this has been seen also as political persecution. And this not only the Women Protection Bill, but the SRU, as we call it, the strategic units in Punjab. One of the wonderful things that they did was we saw women on motorbikes for the first time, women on, and so you see people are looking at these things, and they're looking at the fact that the PMLN posters are being ripped and removed, and PTI posters and flags are being displayed everywhere. So it's actually a growing consciousness and awareness in the rural sector and in the common people, not really only the elites.
All right, that's really interesting. Can I pick your brain a little bit about the factor of the youth also? We've been reading surveys that suggest that youth are, aligning themselves with the PTI, Reham. Is this something that you believe is true? And if so, do you think that the PMLN and the PPP have sort of lost out or failed to tap into the advantage of the young voter in Pakistan?
Yes, absolutely. I think the PTI up until 2013 and even until recently, before Maryam Nawaz and Bilawal came on the scene, and this is a very recent, introduction to Bilawal and to Maryam Nawaz Sharif, and I think they left it very late. And I was forever thinking, why have they left it on so late? They could have done it 3-4 years ago, and they didn't use Bilawal's youth to attract the youth earlier on. We didn't use Maryam Nawaz earlier. We never saw her, and so she was really pushed into this, and people have liked them. People particularly like Bilawal's presence now. I mean, the youth really like it. Older people also like the fact that he's presenting a very soft image, a very soft spoken stance. He's doing all the right things in the sense that, he's talking about decency in politics. He's talking about the fact that, you need to follow certain ethics and dignity. He's carved himself a niche which is very dignified and very modern and very and against hate politics. He's really made his position very clear, and the youth and everyone who's watching him are really, this is something that is a very attractive feature in his personality. But of course, up until now, Imran and PTI have been able to tap into our youth, and of course, that's 65% of our population. But what the sad thing about it is that they've also, although they enjoy this very popular following in the youth, and particularly on social media forums and in the urban class, I think that they've, I and a lot of people now feel that they've actually exploited the youth, and that they've not really talked about decency, or they haven't talked about getting them jobs, the capacity building, but they have introduced a culture of abuse, of trolling, and of sometimes you get the feeling that the youth are actually not thinking creatively or not thinking logically. So yes, they still have that. I think that if you were to compare the parties in relative terms, yes, PTI still have a lot more popularity in the youth, and probably because of the very simple narrative that they throw out there, and maybe also because it's a very loud, popular narrative, and they are the party of the social media. So certainly, of course, the youth are worked very hard on the ground. I'm not sure whether she's got that much interest of the youth generally, but I do think that she's got the vote of women. Women who might not even be, voting for her in the elections or voting for PMLN. But I think that there's a growing feeling in Pakistan, particularly in feminists, that she is a very modern face of Pakistan.